So in the beginning of the chapter, Mock is reflecting on her time working full-time as a sex worker on Merchant Street in order to save up for her sex reassignment surgery. She talks about how she was fully aware of like the dangers that the job entailed, but she was willing to do it because she wanted the money. But a huge thing for her was being in control of the situation no matter what. She even shares this really specific detail about always wanting to make sure that she was never in the back of the car because she felt like she had more control in the front. She also expresses gratitude for the sex workers that kind of helped her learn the ropes and showed her how, or who would warn her about the men who would lowball or be cheap, and all the do's and don'ts of being a sex worker. Mock also discusses how trans women are oftentimes fetishized and how they're seen as exotic goddesses with something extra in between her legs. And she knew that was an integral part of like her whole appeal as a sex worker. She talked about how most of these older men didn't know her but occupied her. Therefore, she had to make sure that she wasn't growing any feelings for these people, learning the difference between kindness and compassion. She allowed herself to show kindness to her clients, but no feelings attached, so no compassion. She tells this story at the end of the chapter that was kind of traumatizing. She decided to take on a client that in her gut she felt like she shouldn't have had done, but he was in a white van, which was already a big like glaring no sign for her. But she decided to engage with him because he offered her a very high pay. And the transaction went normal until the end. And he ended up pulling a knife on her, and she started looking at his eyes and she noticed, oh, this man is on drugs. She eventually escaped and called the police, and she talked about how she felt that it was kind of the irony of her calling the police when she was doing something illegal to begin with. And the police recognized her as one of the girls who worked on Merchant Street, and she was embarrassed by this. After the whole situation transpired, she confided in one of her rich regulars who lived in a high-rise apartment. He was kind and gentle to her, but she felt unworthy of it. He offered to just go ahead and pay the gender reassignment surgery, but she felt like she wasn't worthy of that, and she didn't want to be like the trans version of Pretty Women, which is a movie where a wealthy man sweeps a prostitute off her feet and takes her in and give her a better life. And she has this one quote that I think is a big takeaway, especially when we talk about health and sex work. She says, trans youth, especially those of color, represent a large portion of young people engaging in survival sex, yet they are often erased from narratives of organizations serving youth sex workers. The greatest push factor for trans girls engaging into the sex trade is poverty stemming from homelessness or growing up in an already struggling low-income community where resources are scarce. And I believe that's so true. And there needs to be more intersectional work working with people who are engaging in sex work and trans youth.